Hi guys, Tab here, hope you're all keeping well. I wanted to be out and about filming this weekend. Alas, I've tested positive for COVID. Yep, it's one of those things in this day and age. Doing well though, and hopefully be over it soon, but you know, don't want to be out there spreading it about. So having to do this one from inside the house. But hopefully I can still make the point here. And it's the topic of EVs and range. Yes. It's virtually impossible to mention an EV these days, be it a Taycan, be it a Tesla, be it a Kia, be it a Jag, whatever it is, it's impossible to talk about an EV and not hear the word range mentioned. Yes. How much is the range, mate? Range. How far can it go? What's the range like? What's the range? Range. Enough to drive you deranged, right? So, what do I want to talk about range for? Yeah, well, you could probably say I'm adding to the range conversation, but this is kind of important. Now, the topic of car here is going to be the rather wonderful Porsche Taycan. Very, very impressed with that. Every time I see one on the roads, I just think, yeah, that is a darn fine looking car. And that's another reason why I've got an order on one. Although it might be a bit hairy with the production, as we've seen that it's been stopped due to what's happening in Ukraine, awful situation there at the moment. So yeah, I mean, it will arrive when it arrives. It's kind of the least of the problems right now, isn't it? But the range thing is still something we need to talk about. So the Porsche Taycan, everyone loves it, but the first negative that is often mentioned when they talk about the Porsche Taycan is the range. It's about sort of 200-ish miles. For sure, there's loads of variants of the Taycan, and you know, about 200 plus or minus about 50 is kind of the ballpark that you get with the Taycan. And everyone says, yeah, it's not very high when you compare it with the likes of a Tesla, a Model S that might be doing 300 plus 400 on the range. So here's the thing, right? The range conversation is kind of irrelevant, and I'll tell you for why. Hear me out here, right? How often have you seen on the auto blogs online some ridiculous review where a family that live on the moon get an EV with no access to charging and see if it works for them? And inevitably, it tends not to. Surprise. They probably have been better off with a canoe. Here's the thing, right? Don't get an EV with a specific range if that range is not going to work for you. There is plenty of car choice available out there with a range that's going to suit you. Now, the reality is, would you buy an ICE car if you couldn't get access to any fuel stations to fill the thing up? Probably not. Right? If you lived in the Antarctic and the best way for getting around was via boat, would you buy an ICE car then? No, you probably wouldn't. You'd buy a boat. It's got to be fit for purpose. So much of the range conversation stems from ridiculous reviews where somebody's got down to 1% and they've had a nightmare because they've not been able to make it work for them. Now, some facts for you. The average journey length in the UK, the average car journey length in the UK is a measly 8.4 miles, according to those people that do statistics. And it's been that for years, right? So the reality is pretty much a Nissan Leaf, the original Nissan Leaf with what, 50 miles of range or whatever it was, 80, really low down on the range, is probably going to work for you if you're just doing those journeys. Most of those journeys are going to be well within the range capabilities of the car, right? If we talk about the Porsche Taycan, most of those journeys are going to be well within the range capability of that car, especially the journeys I'm doing. There will be times when you need to go over the maximum range capability of that car, and you're going to have to plan it, you're going to have to charge it. And the Porsche PCM, the manager in the car, is going to do a pretty good job of planning that, ensuring that you need to stop at the right places to charge your car up and continue on your journey. Now this is something you've got to factor in with an EV. Those charging times, you can get to a rapid charger if you can be pumping in sort of 200 kilowatt plus. You know, you're going to be looking at 20 to 30 minutes for a very, very good top up. Enough time for a coffee, have a read, maybe look at the ducks swimming about, whatever it is. But you can make it work. You can absolutely make it work. So the thing to look at here is, why do you need 600, 700 miles range in your EV? In the UK especially, I mean, I know some countries, US, much greater expanses, average journeys much longer. But the UK, 9 times out of 10, pretty much any EV is going to do you very good indeed. So you don't need an EV that's got 600 miles worth of range. The thing there as well is EV range equals battery capacity, kilowatt capacity. I think the Taycan is sort of 87 usable, 95 total, because it's got that buffer for accounting for wear during the charge cycles. But that already weighs 2.3 tons, and the more battery that you have in the car to lug around for that range, the heavier it's going to be and the less efficient it's going to be in terms of watt miles that you're doing in that car. So you kind of really don't want to be lugging around all that dead weight for the sake of it. The problem is here, when an EV, when the battery drains out, it doesn't get any lighter. Unlike an ICE car, when you run out of fuel and get lower on fuel, it does actually get lighter. With an ICE car, whether the battery's full or whether it's empty, it still weighs, sorry, with an EV, whether the battery's full or whether it's empty, it still weighs the same. I keep doing this conversation in my videos about, are we going to break through and get the next battery tech going? Hopefully at some point soon we will. We'll smash through that barrier and just get the next type of battery tech on the go, and it's going to completely change the game for everyone. But at the moment we've not got that. It's your classic lithium iron phosphate batteries, right? So we've just got to make do with what we've got, and to just chuck loads of battery into a vehicle to say it's got a lot of range is totally counterintuitive. The other thing to bear in mind here is that the charging network is increasing in the UK exponentially, so it is becoming easier and easier to own an EV. And if you do live on the moon, don't buy an EV. Don't pay attention to those videos out there, those reviews, those blogs, whatever it is, where somebody gets an EV and invariably it doesn't work because they can't charge it at home, or they've got no charging infrastructure in the city where they live, and the whole thing just falls apart. So really do consider that when you're buying your EV, and that's the point I want to make here, right? An EV is only going to work if it works for you. Any vehicle is only going to work if it works for you. If you've got a family of 6 kids and you have an old Mini, probably not going to work, right? You have to do your research and really discover what works best for you. And don't get too hung up on the blogs out there that kind of put that fear of panic into you about your car running out of range, right? So just consider that when you're buying your EV. And that is why the 200 mile range of the Taycan really doesn't matter. Doesn't matter to me. It's going to work for me. I'm absolutely positive about it. And also I should add that the 200 miles or so you get in a Taycan is proving to be very accurate, unlike some of the competitors out there that do tend to stay a bit kind of above where they've been. And you know, that whole VAG group probably been scared off a little bit by the Dieselgate scandal, so they're probably being on the cautious side versus the higher edge side of their range quotations. But that's the conversation I want to have for this video, right? Don't get too head up about it. Do your own research. Make sure that it's going to work for you. Because 9 times out of 10, I'm sure there is an EV car out there that will be just right. Thanks for watching. Take care for now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and see you on the next one. Bye for now.